So, some of you have heard about Henry Cavill working with Amazon, and he's actually is an executive producer on a Warhammer 40K project. Some of you might not know what Warhammer 40K is. To give you a brief explanation of my history with the franchise, I was always a big Star Trek and Star Wars fan. In modern Trek and Star Wars have become abominable for me to watch. And I was looking for a new science fiction franchise. I knew of 40K. I was familiar with phrases like Space Marines and the God Emperor, but I knew nothing about it. Eventually, it just piqued my interest, and what a fascinating universe it is. Humanity lives in the darkest of futures in a galactic spanning empire called the Imperium of Man. To read a quote from the books, to be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. There is no plucky rebels taking down the evil empire in 40K. In fact, the evil empire is mankind's only hope. That's not to be saying there aren't good characters in moments of compassion in 40K, whether it be Commissar Caiaphas Kane thinking his attendant Jurgen is dead and actually grieving, the Primarchs Vulcan and Rogel Dorn during the Horus Heresy just embracing for a moment, or during the Battle of Rindsworld, where the Crimson Fist's homeworld was attacked by the Orcs and their fortress monastery hit with missiles, while struggling not only for the survival of their planet, but their chapter came across a mother and children who was carrying her children, trying desperately to keep up with them. When the mother collapsed from sheer exhaustion and the rest of the Crimson Fists were thinking she was going to get the Emperor's mercy, a quick and merciful neck snap, Pedro Cantor, the chapter master of the Crimson Fists, instead told her, "You've carried a great burden longer than anyone would have expected. And now it's time I carry you. Your family's safety is now the charge of the Crimson Fists." So there are noble, heroic characters, and there are moments like that. But it's this grim, dark universe, but that makes those moments more impactful when they happen. And mankind has no shortage of enemies, whether it be the green tide of the orcs, the evil, otherworldly forces of chaos, the arrogant Eldar, the perverse Dark Eldar, the mechanized forces of the Tau. Humanity fights a war on all fronts, and hence everything about this society is meant to contribute to war, whether it be the Forge Worlds of Mars under the Mechanicus, whether it be the manufactorums of various hive worlds, agri worlds that help provide food, so on and so forth. It never ends. Either you're a space marine, you're in the guard, fighting and dying. If you're lucky to be born to privilege, you can be part of whatever elite class on other planets, but your life is either going to be violent and short on the battlefield, or it's going to be toiling away for endless hours in manufactorums with no safety protocol. This may sound a bit like, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but there is just so much room for storytelling, and it's so fascinating. You go along with it. You don't have to agree with the Imperium of Man and how they become. You just have to look at the history of it and understand why the Imperium of Man became so oppressive, because the Emperor had humanity on the verge of enlightenment, of true greatness, and his most beloved son, Horus Lupercal, Primarch of the Luna Wolves, or later to be changed the Sons of Horus, decided to follow the forces of chaos, leading half his brothers in a rebellion against their father, erupting the galaxy into civil war. As Horus declared, let the galaxy burn, and it did burn. This heresy would end with every trace of Horus, physical and spiritual, destroyed, and the Emperor's body left crippled and broken, having to be put on the golden throne that had to be hastily converted into a makeshift life support. And it's only the Emperor on the throne that keeps the Astronomicon powered, which is how ships guide themselves through space travel. And 1,000 psychics have to be sacrificed to him every day to keep this powered. And if the Golden Throne were to ever fail, there's a kill switch that would destroy Earth, because due to certain events during the heresy, the Golden Throne is also keeping the forces of chaos from pouring onto Earth. So it's the darkest just possible future you can imagine, that has moments of great epicness. And there is just so much lore for every faction and sub-faction. Each Space Marine chapter has great characters. They have great... And there's chapter masters. All chapter masters, they're just... It says a lot to be the master of a Space Marine chapter. The superhuman guardians of humanity, but some stand a breed apart, whether it be Logan Grimnar of the Logan Grimnar of the Space Wolves, who, during the first Battle of Armageddon, when the forces of chaos were sealed away and the Inquisition and the Grey Knights decided to exterminate civilians that the Space Wolves kept away from the conflict, the Space Wolves fought against both the Inquisition and the Grey Knights. Logan Grimnar himself not only one-shotting the Grand Master of the Grey Knights, which is a feat in and of itself, but he decapitated the head of the Inquisition and didn't face the wrath of the Inquisition for it. This guy's an absolute legend. Chapter masters like him, Tushan of the Salamanders, Pedro Cantor of the Crimson Fists, and most importantly, Dante of the Blood Angels, a man that's over 1,000 years old and just wants to die, but still serves, are a breed apart among the chapter masters. They're like the best of the chapter masters. And even the just diversity in the Space Marines and how each army is. You have some Space Marine chapters that really don't care about humanity, and you have others, like the Salamanders, that do have compassion, that see their mission as protecting the Imperium means protecting humans. The Salamanders even still spend time with their families and see them after conversion to becoming a Space Marine, something unheard of among all other chapters. There's the countless men and women of the Imperial Guard, and there are different regiments from different sectors, different planets, each with their own diverse lore and tactics, some a lot better than others. One of the most famous is Cadia, a planet that was destroyed during the 13th Black Crusade, yet the resolve of the Guard was so strong that as the planet cracked beneath their feet, they were still fighting. The planet broke before the Guard did. You have things called Titans and Imperial Knights, which are just epic war machines of the Imperium. And it really is. It's the tale of endless wars, but there's also endless possibilities in those wars. if you look into it, whether it be an Imperial Guard regiment, a Space Marine chapter, or some of the Xenos factions, even another one, the Necrons, which are robots that have souls inside of them, that have their fascinating lore. You're bound to find one faction or sub faction that's gonna fascinate you, and you will be drawn in. I'm far from the best person to tell you about 40K, but before I close, I want to give you two good recommendations of YouTubers. Lutein, he does great lore videos, and if you're new to 40K, he has some great videos for newcomers. I can't recommend his series on the Emperor of Man, the first and second parts, enough. That gives you the backstory of the Emperor, the backstory of the Horus Heresy, and then Wolf Lord Rowe, who's another great 40K lore YouTuber, but he really goes more all in on the different characters. And if you want to learn about the characters, he's the best one. I'm far from the best, but hopefully for someone, I'll have at least piqued your interest in 40K and directed you to someone more suited to tell you about this universe than me. So like, share, comment, subscribe, and hopefully we'll all be enjoying a Amazon 40K project in the future. Like, share, comment, subscribe, over and out.